Hello, everyone. Welcome. Actually, I'm going to put on our other screen. Welcome to our live feed. I'm Sophie Scardacci with Creative Spark, and I am the host today of another host, Lee Monroe of May Chapel. Hey, Lee. So
Hello.
Lee's actually the host of Creative Sparks, the Quilting Hour, which we're going to chat about today. We're going to chat about all things color. So if you are into
All things
color,
color.
yeah. And if you have a question for Lee, throw it in the chat. We will do our best to answer. Or if you just are excited about something, come on and share. We would love to see what you have to say. So, to get started, one of the things I'm going to kind of go back before the quilting hour, because right now we're in quilting hour season 4. It's not too late
Yeah.
to, chat. And hello, Sherry. Oh, I love when people are making comments. Thanks. So, one of the things that you're going to see here. Let's see here. Okay, this is her book. Okay, so up on the screen, we have her cover of her book and the back cover of her book. So, um, it's a little it's a spiral book that like lays flat, right? Or hidden, is it a
Yes.
hidden spiral kind of?
Can they see me too right now?
Oh yeah, yeah, they can. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it has a little wiro binding.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. See, and it folds it lays flat, which we love.
Well, you can even like fold it back on itself,
Yeah.
which is fantastic.
In
It's
fact,
I
okay, I'm going to go back to a bigger screen so you can hold it up more. So, and
Oh,
tell us
okay.
a little bit about the book. Like, what was your thoughts on the book? What's the like? What is this book about? Why do I need the book? I know why I need the book, but why? You tell everyone
I,
else why.
I mean, everyone loves a good quilting book, always.
Yeah,
Um, so the book was kind of born from I did a previous book with CNT about jump into sewing, where they had approached me with the topic. And then after that experience, I was like, so there's this book I've always wanted to write. And so that was sort of what this book was born from. And basically, I teach a lot of classes on color, and my background is very like I have a fine art degree, and then I went to school in graphic design, and you know, and so I sort of lived in the like, these are all the terms and this is the rigid world of color. And I wanted a color book that talked about all those things and talked about color theory, but in a super conversational way. And I wanted it to be super approachable and very like, okay, these are the facts about like color theory. And then here are some ways you can actually start to understand them. So at the end of each chapter, we have little practice and play sections, and I wanted it to be where you kind of read about value. And then I said, okay, go around your house and find 10 objects and figure out, put them in order from lightest to darkest, because students don't really learn until they start doing it.
yeah,
So I wanted it to just be like really approachable, very simple. And we did for makers instead of like just quilters or just knitters or, kind of one medium, because really you could use the whole book and do everything in colored pencil. You could use the book and do everything in fabric. Like it's extremely kind of whatever you have laying around, you can use that and make sure you really understand the concepts of color.
yeah.
So that was kind of my goal.
I love
And I
it.
get
And on the
very
cover,
excited
you
about
have like all these different things that like really again relate to all the different ways you could play with color too.
it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I showed kind of like my favorite, like I'm a knitter, so I put in some knitting, which I have never more carefully knitted anything. Sophie knows I'm more in the beginning world of knitting and less in the
um
um
Yeah, so I would say, yeah, she's actually much better than she's giving herself credit for. But that's the other thing is like all the photos you did, like it's all you, which is kind of
yeah.
cool about the book.
I
So,
I wanted to design the whole thing myself because I have a background in graphic design. Um, so I wrote it, I photographed it, I laid it out, and I yes, it's like it's exactly what I wanted it to be,
yeah.
and I'm excited that it's out in the world. And
And we're going to
um,
talk about a recent episode of the Quilting Hour with Alex Anderson that people can go back and watch. But she is like a huge fan of this book too, by the way. Like lots of people are loving this book. It was fun to hear that. So, okay, so another way of getting, you can get the book, and I'm actually going to put the link to the book on our website in the chat right now. Um, but you can also get a free ebook when you get Lee's lecture called Understanding the Rainbow. This is the practical tips for makers, and it's a lecture she did, and we recorded it, and so it's included in that lecture as well, and that is on Crave Spark. So actually, Lee has a lot of classes on Crave Spark besides hosting the Quilting Hour. She's got uh, a couple that are in the, do we call them precision piecing?
Yeah, we have
Yeah,
like piecing classes basically.
yeah, really
You can do
good
like a
ones.
scrappy project, a Dresden project. We have a making a Dresden one.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, the
a
little the
bag.
bags. Oh, okay, this y'all, this is like the most fun. You have, and I'm lucky that I've been gifted a bag.
But you could
By
you could
Lee.
easily
But yeah, so they're really great classes and something to look at. But today we're going to talk about her series. This is her fourth season, and it is called The Quilting Hour. This season is all color. And if you're not familiar with the Quilting Hour, it's a series of six, kind of like video podcasty kind of a style, I'm going to say, where Lee has a couple friends in the industry on, and they, one or two in this season, but they talk about a certain subject matter. And there's three seasons. You can actually go back and purchase any of the seasons. You can purchase individual episodes. You can purchase them as bundles and save a little. So it's kind of fun. So if one of these that we're going to show you like interests you, you can just get the one, or better yet, you can get all of them. And I do have a little coupon code I can throw in for the bundle. So I'm going to put that in the chat as well. Okay, so the first episode, now we've had three. We have three more that will be live, and they're all recorded and they never expire. So the first one that we
you can
had,
watch them all the time.
yeah, you can keep watching them. They're a
They
ton of
are
fun, or even
very
just listen to them. I mean, there's
I
some
was gonna
visual
say
stuff, but the first one
it's
I would say you
video,
could even
so
just
you'll want
listen.
to glance. You'll want to
Yeah,
glance up, but like absolutely, they're just conversations.
yeah, yeah. But like with like amazing people. So the first episode was Focus on Color, Eclectic and Inspired Colors, and that was with,
That was Jen Kingwell and Sue Spargo.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a great conversation with two really iconic greats. So so that's episode is like happened, but you can watch it. It's just edited and ready to go. So you can watch it today. Oops, and I am
Yeah, and Sue
making
and
things.
Jen are so they're both so like inherently creative that it was really fun to kind of talk to them about their process because I feel like for both of them they're very just like trust their gut and add colors and things, but it was interesting to kind of see how they both created their palettes and
Yeah.
you know
Yeah,
like
they
that
both
journey.
have very kind of similar ways. I mean,
Yeah,
they're very much two peas in a pod. I feel like,
they
but
are. They are. Because I always ask both people both questions, and I felt like of all the episodes, that was the episode where it was like ditto.
yeah, yeah, there was a
And
lot
then
of dittos.
I was the like odd man out where I was like, okay, that's great. I am super organized, and I would like it to be like really rigid.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the other thing, just so you know, Lee's like the resident expert, so she's giving her take on stuff as well. So it's really fun. You're really getting like three. Well, in this season we have a couple episodes that are just one guest. So in that case, the second episode was a full range of color, and that featured Alex Anderson. And this one so far of the three is probably, I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it's my favorite.
Oh,
Um,
and part of the reason Alex, like there are a couple people that only I only have one guest, and really what it was is I wanted to talk to Alex about how she creates these really cohesive scrap projects. Like she's amazing at pulling just tons of color and tons of fabric and making it feel like it really belongs. And I knew she would fill an hour, and I could have talked to her for 5 more hours about
you
it,
could have. Yeah.
Yeah, she's amazing at that. And one thing I love about her is a lot of people that are great at color don't it's hard to explain to someone who doesn't naturally feel confident. I always say with color, no one's bad at color. You just haven't built your confidence yet.
Yeah.
But I think that she is really good at kind of like pinpointing, like, these are the things I look at and these are the things I consider. So
Yeah.
I think especially if you lack confidence in scrap quilting, like, you will love that episode.
Yeah. I it really was, I took away a lot. There were a lot of takeaways in that one for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
there always is a takeaway. I shouldn't say that, but
Yeah.
that one was especially dear to my heart. Now, this one was exciting too, because we actually had somebody who was definitely new as well that hadn't been on before. Although a lot of the people hadn't been on, but this is called Limited Palettes for Maximum Impact. And this was Denise Schmidt and Daisy Ashhaug. Did I say that right?
Osterhaug.
Ashhaug. Okay, you say it correctly. Thank you.
Daisy
And
Osterhaug.
yeah, yeah. And
Um,
she's actually an
Daisy
author
will
so of
message me and be
CNTs.
like, "You were wrong too."
Yeah. So yeah, and this episode happened like a week and a half ago. Um, if you're not familiar, Denise is like an amazing fabric designer in addition to quilter, and Daisy's really known for lots of. We have like a bunch of curve books available from C&T as well. So
Yeah.
anything that was a
Daisy,
highlight for this one for you?
yeah. Daisy's definitely like the resident curve expert. But one thing I noticed as I sort of went through Denise's and Daisy's quilts is both of them are really great at making projects that just have like one, have like two or three colors, like they have a really limited palette. In fact, Daisy has this one I just love that's like a pale blue and this like peachy color and then a vintage fabric. And that quilt made me want this to be a topic on the season. Like
Yeah,
that quilt. I was like, I want to talk about how people figure out how to do that, because looking at that vintage fabric, I thought it was lovely, but I would be like, I'm just going to put a little hint of it in a scrap quilt because I think it's pretty. I would not have been like, I'm going to build an entire project around
yeah,
this. Um, and I think Denise is like my hero of quilting. And I feel like a lot of people would say that. And one thing I love about her is I've always worked with her fabrics from my very first quilt market. I pretty much always have something going made with her fabric because she makes such interesting color combinations in her
hmm
fabric. And I love that she's really good at giving you the same color and a bunch of values within a line. I think she really designs her vintage fabrics for modern quilters really
yeah,
well. And so I wanted to kind of talk to her about her process of picking the colors for the fabrics as well as like her quilts. Like it's like
yeah.
Denise has her fabric journey and her quilting journey.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely both. Which was,
so
I mean, so exciting because I feel like she's very unusual. Like I don't know if unusual is right, but like unique fabric designer, which I love too. So
absolutely.
yeah,
And I think too, she designs with her own fabrics, but I don't think her quilts, like, a lot of people use her fabrics for quilts that don't look like her quilts.
yeah,
And I think a lot of other fabric designers, it's like you end up making a quilt very similar to the quilts they made.
yeah,
And I think her fabrics cross a lot of styles of quilting in a way I love.
yeah,
Because my
definitely.
quilts do not look a lot like her quilts at all.
No, not
But
at all.
yet I've made tons of quilts with only her fabric. So she's also just one of those people that's even better in person. And I think that, I say the same about Alex. I think both of them, once you get to know them, like they're so giving of industry knowledge and just like their color knowledge. And
Yeah,
Denise shared so much from like her art background and how she does her process.
yeah.
So
It
yeah,
was that was a great episode. And again, the first three we've talked about, they're available. The recordings are available. They have closed captioning. They're all set to go. Um, This
Sometimes the
week,
closed captioning says something really funny too.
yeah, sometimes, yeah. This week, we have another instructor from Crave Spark that's incredibly popular, and that is Tim Natar. And this week is creating imagery through color. So, real quick, we're going to go through the rest because we haven't had these ones yet. But what are you thinking? What are you planning on talking about for the with Timna?
Timna, if you don't know Timna's work, you should definitely Google it because she is a genius with color. But one thing she does is she creates these sort of patchwork portraits.
Mm-hmm.
And so, within it's a portrait, but it's like she's actually still working within squares, but she'll put multiple fabrics within the square. And she's really great at creating shadowing and just like nailing exactly the right colors for things. And she has, I don't know if the image you're showing is the self-portrait, but she has like a
It
self-portrait.
is, yeah.
She has
It is
a
the
chicken
one.
and so just a real very subtle fabric and color changes. And so, again, she had to be her own episode because she
Yeah.
does what she does so well.
And she also has a class that's actually on this. I think she calls it mosaic. It's like a mosaic technique. So she has a class on that on Crave Spark as well. And I'm sure you guys will talk about that. But she also does cool like maps and other kind of and just general scrappy stuff. So definitely, I'm excited about Friday. Now the next one is
And
the day after 4th of July
yeah,
is going to be an episode. So, actually, I am coming to work that day for this episode. But I'm really excited about it. And that is,
Latifa,
yeah,
Safir.
yes. So,
Um,
and this
yes.
one is called "So Cool It's Hot." I love the title. So, what are we, what are we thinking we're gonna hear?
Well,
Hear that hour.
A, that title just kind of came to me and I was like, that's really fun.
Yeah.
And so I used it. But the main thing I want to talk to Latifa about is Latifa is so bold with her color choices. And she does like bias quilts where she'll have just yards and yards of bias tape. And she'll also have like rings where there's little subtle color changes, or sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
it's contrasting. But she's so bold with color. So that's really, what I want to like focus on with her, because I think she also makes unique pairings.
Mm.
When she does these really bold colors, but it's not just like all the pairings you usually see, you
Yeah.
know. And so I think it'll be fun to kind of see how she plays with that.
Definitely. Okay. And then the final episode is going to be engineered color combinations with Cheryl Bricky and Yvonne. Is it Fuchs? Fuchs?
Fuchs.
Fuchs? Fuchs. All right.
Fuchs.
Fuchs.
That's okay.
I'll
um
get it. Um,
I've only seen this written.
yeah, yeah. It's like, okay. So, tell us what we can. I mean, this is going to be an amazing finale for the season.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you know, Yvonne just won one of the huge ribbons at QuiltCon, and she makes these really really bold quilts, and her business name is Quilting Jet Girl because she is like a NASA engineer turned quilter. And I and Cheryl I've known for years, and I actually kind of got to know Yvonne through Cheryl. And Cheryl is also an engineer. And so I love how both of them think as quilters because they have these very engineering minds. And it's interesting because Latifo is an engineer too. Like I think quilters that kind of come from that background, like quilting does obviously relate so much to engineering and geometry and things, but it's so I want to kind of talk about how they approach color. Yvonne does really, really contrasty bits of color. And I think that Cheryl is really good at sort of creating shapes by combining like a dark and a medium of the same color and getting this sort of
Mm-hmm.
secondary design. So, and I feel like that's very engineering inspired.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. So
they
this
they
is
should
like,
be really fun.
yeah. So this is gonna be. This is just. I mean, first of all, color is always probably one of the most popular topics that we ever do on our site. Especially we have the color mixer, which is really popular for one of our live events. But so I was excited when Lee wanted to do this season that was like fully focused on color. But again, there's 3 other seasons too. So if you're like check all the episodes out. And again, you can purchase them like a la carte or by bundle. So super fun. But Lee has some tips for us today because I was like, we have to have some color tips or tidbits, or what do you have for us, Lee?
Okay, so well, Sophie, I'm famous for like reading an email 2 minutes before something starts. So I went to log into this and she was like, this is what we need. And at the bottom it said a few color tips. So I quickly grabbed the stuff for two of my favorite tips. The first one is, one thing people will always ask is, what's a really great like tip for picking out your fabric when you're in a fabric store? And one of my favorite things to tell people is, if you look at the selvage of fabric, so I'm going to fold this over. So there's the selvage that I call like the informational selvage, where there's the designer's name and all that info. This one is like printed on a pure, bright white. And this one is printed on a really, really soft white. And if you look at that, it's a really good indication if something is a bright white, that this color is going to be really, really pure and bright, and that this one is likely to have a little bit of gray in it and be a softer color. And I
That's
grabbed
great.
another one that had a bright white that I feel like will also kind of show that. But so here's two that are both sort of a light blue and then a light periwinkle. So you can
Oh
see
yeah.
how one is, yeah, that
Yeah,
shows up
one's
better.
a little more like
Yeah, so
off-white.
this one's just like a little bit softer. And so if you're shopping across kind of different lines of fabric, a great thing is check out all your selvages. And if you're picking out all selvages that are bright white, probably all those colors will look great together. Or if you're picking out all selvages that are a little softer.
That's
Sometimes the
really
designer,
easy, and that's easy to do. That was like just like
yeah.
put that tip in your pocket and goes. Yeah.
Yes, it's like a very simple, or if you're ever looking at even a set of fabrics and you're like, one of these feels like it doesn't belong, a lot of times if you go look, you'll find out that that selvage is a
Mhm.
softer color.
Yeah.
Um, and then another tip I have, and this is actually something that I used in the book, but this is a little quilt block I made that is split complementary. So I was trying to show split complementary, which is basically if you pick one color, red, and you go across the color wheel, its complementary color is green. But instead of picking green, you pick the colors on either side, which are yellow, green, and blue, green. And one thing when I made this little project was, I could have totally used white here, but instead of using white, I used a print that's
Oh,
white with little blue green lines.
oh,
And I hope it's
cute.
showing up on screen. So it's
Yeah,
like
it
a
looks
little,
a little. It definitely looks a little on the grayer side, but we're gonna
yeah,
take your word that's blue, green,
take my word
grayish.
for it that it's
Yeah.
actually turquoise. But
Okay.
what that does, because that color was going to be next to the red and the yellow green more, that actually like helps pump those up.
Yeah.
So anytime you can use a complementary or a split complementary color, it'll sort of intensify it. So I'm a big fan of not picking just a plain background, but instead picking something that's a print and has a little color that'll sort of send my project in the direction I want it to go.
Yeah. Awesome. Those were great. Thank you so much, and thanks
And
for
you can make
joining
the
us
concrete
today.
work.
Yeah. So whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube, we thank you for tuning in. And next week on Tuesday, we're going to be on live a little later for Shannon and Jason's book launch party for their scrappy, wonky quilt block bonanza book. And they have classes, so I'm probably mixing up their class names and their book name, but it's gonna be tons of fun, and we have prizes, so y'all should definitely show up and celebrate with us. So anyways, we hope you all have a great day. Lee, thank you again for joining me, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you offline sooner than
It was
later. So
great fun.
okay,
Thank you.
have a great day, everyone. Thanks so much.